see people still are joining. So good morning or good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to the IDSA Q&A session. We will give it another minute or two, I think, to let more people enter, and then we will just start. So make yourself comfortable and let's wait another minute. Okay, I think we can go ahead and just start, and more people will probably trickle in as they come. So again, thank you all for joining us for the IDSA Q&A session. For those that don't know, we have once per month or two, we have a Q&A session where we explain a bit more about the data space concept and what we are doing here at IDSA. This is a bit of a more focused special edition, talking about the data space user group and the IDSA membership, as well as more of a general what kind of support you can get from IDSA and how can you take part in what we are doing session. So this is with a bit of a different focus for today, but just so you know that we have those Q&A sessions as well, and you are still welcome to drop in regular question, let's say, in the chat as well. So before we start, I'm Shani Tiran. I am a senior consultant at IDSA, and I work more on the adoption side, let's say, of the IDSA assets and approach, trying to see how we can take our work and translate it into real world impact, let's say. So these sessions are part of this support. So how can we help you take what we're doing here and translate it into your work? And I have with me here Ilknur from our tech team, and maybe I can pass on the mic to you, Ilknur, to introduce yourself as well.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is İlknur Çılani. I'm a senior program manager with the tech team at IDSA. So I focus more on tech topics. Also, I support our CTO for our working groups, working group architecture, and particularly for the new reference architecture model version we are developing. So it's very nice to see you all today. Thank you very much for joining this session.
So I think we can just go ahead and start because we have, as always, a lot to cover. So the way we're going to do it is more or less split it into 40 minutes or half of the time, let's say, to where probably I would do most of the talking and Ilknur as well, and kind of explain to you what we have. But we really want to save some time to hear your questions, and this can be as interactive as you want, so you can always drop question in between and we can see if we pick them up. But we leave space for questions as well, so no worries. And if time allows it, we can show you at the end some other resources or where else you can interact with us as well. So I know that this session, we are going to focus on the user group, on the membership, but just to take one small step before, to explain what are we even doing here at IDSA and why we are focusing on data spaces. So again, very, very briefly for this part. Why was the approach of data spaces developed? So if you look at the historical context, data sharing has moved on from this very simple bilateral data exchange of one-to-one to close communities of a few to few. And today we have this emerging need for a more decentralized and dynamic data sharing. So today's business model, the complexity of multi-stakeholder interactions, and obviously the exponential growth of data all make data much more valuable and much more not just a byproduct, but the product itself in many senses. And so we see more and more data-based business models, and those need innovative collaborations and data sharing across sometimes even competitive boundaries. And yet, we know that there is a need, but we don't see this need being realized in real time. And in fact, you can see here the number, 80% of industrial data is never used. And so why is that? What causes this gap between this obvious need and the lack of realization? And what we see is that there is a need for a balancing act that today does not exist, or today is not mature enough, let's say, between the need to share data. So I want to really take part in this so-called data sharing economy. I want to unlock the economic potential of my data. But on the other hand, I would want also to maintain control. I want to keep the ownership on my data. I want to keep the competitive edge, and data sharing a lot of time puts a risk into that. And this is where the data spaces approach comes into play. And we'll get to it in a second. This is also where differs, let's say, from other federated sharing mechanism. Because in the heart of the data spaces approach is the ability to provide this balance by allowing for data sovereignty. So the ability to control data throughout the entire sharing journey. That means that not only do I choose who I give access to, not only at the access point, but all the consequent usage terms as well. I can stay in control, and I can have traceability and see how my data is used as well. And that empowers businesses to take part in this data sharing economy, to stay competitive while ensuring security. So what is the data space approach? And that's less slide before I move into what we are actually doing at IDSA and the user group and membership and so on. But the data space approach is, as you can see here, it's the sum of all endpoints able to share data with one another. And the key principles of the approach are the following. So if we're talking about sum of all endpoints, that already kind of showcases that there is no one place that all the data is being funneled into. So we're talking here about a federated data architecture, no physical data integration into one place. We also put interoperability as a key principle in data spaces. So our ability to enable seamless data exchange today with with company A, and tomorrow with company B that is in the data space. And data sovereignty, which we already mentioned. So the ability to maintain control over the data that we are sharing, and that includes also traceability. So we can already also see how our data was used, and we can trace back. And at the end, we talk about trust. So data spaces are a trusted ecosystem where we are sure that only those that are adhering to the same rules, the same standards can join. And these principles directly address the main concerns that we think cause companies to be hesitant when sharing data. So we tackle here trust, interoperability, and control concerns. And this is all was a small preview just to say why we are doing what we are doing here at IDSA, what we are trying to achieve. So we want to see this idea of data spaces prosper, basically. We believe this is the key to really realizing economic value. So who we are and where we are right now. IDSA, we are International Data Spaces Association. We were founded in 2016, basically coining the term data space. It was back then, it was industrial data spaces, but obviously the scope has broadened much more. And we aim to set the foundations of data spaces, both across technology and business practices. And what we try to create is one consistent framework for data spaces and infrastructure. We are International Data Spaces Association, so we are global. We try to be neutral, and we are driven by our members, which I will get to in a minute. As far as where we are right now, so we started in 2016, 9 years already, almost a decade, and we really see that the ecosystem has matured greatly. There's still much more steps that we still need to achieve, but we are reaching the point where the infrastructure, let's say, is in place. The framework is in place. We can see more and more data spaces that are being established based on the IDSA reference and guidance. And more players are on board. So we're talking here about the providers, policymakers, and more we talk about the users of data spaces as data spaces become more of a thing that is widely adopted and not just for the first innovators, let's say. We are International Data Spaces Association. So it started, we are European based, but we work more and more in more geographies, and you can also see it in our members. So we currently have 182 members in the association. We are a member organization, and all of these members work with us on the co-creation. You can see here that they come from 31 different countries, so over 30 countries. And if you take a look a little bit at the logos as well, you can see that it's really a broad spectrum of our members. So we have more research and academy, and then we have some startups and like big tech companies. And the idea here is that the scope is and the perspective are wide, and that creates really relevant standards to all, basically. In all of that, our responsibilities as IDSA or as the head office, let's say, of IDSA is the following. We try to coordinate the activities. So our members drive the co-creation process of the guidelines of our assets, and we do the coordination of that. We also manage the repositories. So a lot of open source information and documentation that everybody can use, and community management. And here I will also add the support to adoption. So we know the field, we work with the field, and what we try to do is help the ecosystem drive adoption more and more. That's the last pillar of responsibilities. And this slide is always very complex to look at, but just briefly to explain that what we try to do is when we support adoption and when we create our asset is to help all the stages, let's say, of the innovation cycle in a sense. So from the very beginning of aligning the architectures, so basically laying the groundworks for data spaces through creating or supporting the tools and open source solutions that can help with actually creating data spaces, to supporting actual data spaces and bringing them to light. And at the end, bringing all of this into global standardization. So making sure that this is all relevant in the global scale. And so basically working all the way through from the very first groundwork, from the foundational infrastructure, all the way up into real world adoption. If we look at innovations, so we try to look at data spaces as every other innovation, basically. This is no different. And every innovation starts with an idea. And you can see here some examples of innovations from across history. And history shows us that breakthroughs only become real world progress once users integrate them into daily operations. So innovations are nice. And you can see here, for example, in the middle picture, there's the example of the phone. So from the moment the phone was first conceptualized until we got to from the first patent until we got to the point of actual full-scale adoption of what we know as the phone today, it took 150 years. And obviously, we're not going to wait 150 years, and this is a different time and place with technology, but we do want to see how we can help as IDSA to make this step from the conceptualization, from the really great idea that we have here, all the way to adoption. And this is also the place where the user group, when we'll get to it, comes into play, because we know that in order to get to adoption, we need users. And so basically, as any other innovation, data space's success will depend on two sides of the same coin. On the one hand, the makers, they are the ones that build the architecture, build the frameworks, the services, and so on. And on the other hand, the users, they are the ones that implement the solutions, they refine them as they go along, and they unlock the strategic value of these solutions. And if we want here at IDSA and all together to create a thriving ecosystem, that will come only when both sides would work and collaborate more closely. And so what does IDSA do to support or to work with those two sides? So it's no secret, I think, that up until now, data spaces were mostly a maker's field, let's say, because it really was the beginning. So you needed the actors that wants to create the solutions that other will adopt. And so for the past 9 years, IDSA has been working mostly with the makers, and that is not going to change. So the makers are an essential part of making data spaces relevant. And so IDSA will continue on to work with the makers. What do we do with the makers? How do we support them? So first, what do data spaces makers need? Makers need to have the ability to help the public. So educate maybe sounds a bit, educate or support the public with understanding data sharing, understanding data spaces, and wanting to adopt these concepts. Makers want to promote their activities, promote their solutions, and engage customers and understand customers better. And also, they want to secure government's understanding of the topics and their support. What we try to do with makers, how we try to support them, is by exposing them to the data spaces users, their insights, their needs and requirements, co-creating with them in working groups to specify best practices, technology, and standards, making sure that they are the most relevant that they could be, and help as well with representation with governments and international standardization institutions. And I think this will be a great place for me also to pass the mic to Ilknur to explain more about the maker scope in IDSA, because it very closely ties into what the tech team is doing as well. So Ilknur, maybe you can take over for a few minutes.
Sure. Thank you very much, Shani. Yes. So what's in the scope of makers? In other words, what are the core assets of IDSA that our makers influence or co-create? So first of all, the reference architecture model. This is our core asset at IDSA. It's a high-level blueprint, conceptual model for building data spaces. So it's independent of any particular technology, and it describes different roles in a data space, their interactions, what kind of components are needed, etc. And it includes elements for ensuring trust, interoperability, data space governance, these kind of things. Then we have the IDS certification. This is a framework for validating compliance to IDS concepts. So we have a certification scheme defined. So our makers are involved to define and influence the certification scheme. Then we have the IDSA rulebook. This is a guide for building and operating data spaces in the real world. So it doesn't only describe technical elements, requirements, but also operational aspects, maintenance, organizational aspects, legal agreements, etc. So different perspectives of data spaces can be found in the rulebook. And then we have the data space protocol. This is about interoperability. So how do you ensure the data space participants with different technologies, for example, with different connectors, can communicate with each other? Also, even if they are in different data spaces, how they can communicate with each other. So the data space protocol, we are particularly proud because this is on its way to become an international standard as well. So a process is in place for making ISO standard. This is something we are very proud of. Then we have the professional qualification program. As the data spaces are being adapted more and more, we need skills. We need people to know about data spaces. So we are developing also this qualification program together with our members. So our makers are influencing what goes into the curriculum for these training courses, not just for technical people, but also for consultants, for example. So if you are an IDSA member, you can influence also these training programs. Then we have a huge support for open source development at IDSA. We have over 60 repositories with different components, different specifications that define things even in more detail than our RAM or rulebook. So you could also contribute to these. You can go to the next one. And how we do this, how we develop all these assets, are through our working groups. So our members can be part of 4 different working groups. So the working group architecture is creating and maintaining the reference architecture model and the data space protocol. This working group also has activities for coordinating our members' inputs to standardization bodies, and also supporting the developer community through these open source projects I mentioned earlier. Then we have the working group certification. So if you are interested in maintaining or evolving the IDS certification scheme, you can join this working group as an IDSA member, and again, influence how it should be shaped. We have the working group rulebook. Rulebook describes how to operationalize data spaces, how to build them, how to maintain them, how to govern them with legal, technical aspects. So with a lot of different aspects. Again, you can be part of this working group if you have these different perspectives on data spaces and if you want to influence a bit this asset. We have also the working group training, which maintains the data space body of knowledge. You can think of this as the overarching curriculum, where all the different trainings can stem from. Again, you can be part of this working group. So our working groups also have some sub-activities. So specific groups of people working on specific things. For example, in working group architecture, we have bi-weekly touchpoint calls for RAM5, which is the next version of the reference architecture model we are working on. We have, again, a touchpoint for data space protocol, sub-working group personal data, talking about how personal data and data spaces are related. Also a special group that gets together for standardization coordination, how we give inputs to ISO, Sensenelec, etc. We also have sub-working group test beds for the working group certification, task force legal framework, exploring legal aspects for data spaces under the working group rulebook. Also the once-a-month data space body of knowledge review activity under the working group training. So you can access to the meetings of all of these things under the working group meeting calendar. I believe slides will be circulated to you afterwards. But also this QR code here will give you access to a working group brochure where we describe all these working groups in detail. So please feel free to go and explore them, and also feel free to reach out to me or other IDSA colleagues if you want to know more about our working group activities. Thank you very much.
And maybe to also mention another activity that we have that is relatively new, so it's less than a month old. That is also for the maker side and the member side, let's say, of IDSA. It's the IDSA Policy and Innovation Forum that working on advocacy activities internationally, taking care of informed policy making that will allow for a fertile environment for data sharing, let's say. So, for example, this work, they are now responding to the European Commission's call for evidence for the new data union strategy. So it's a place where the members of this forum can create the one voice of our perspective regarding this data union strategy. It's a place to really give a voice to our members, let's say. And so all of these activities that are more on the maker profile, this is what we are doing with our close relationship with our members. So you have to be a member in order to take part in these working groups and in order to do this co-creation process with us. And so for those of you that find this relevant, this is an opportunity to really, as it says here, it sounds big, but it's true. It's drive the future with us. So voice opinions in the working group and contribute to all the assets and the open source resources that we create and the standardization. It's an opportunity to get into this network of peers and build valuable business connections. Get early bird information, latest insights, resources, valuable assets. We talked about it a lot. So we are a global organization, and that's an opportunity to gain global visibility as well. And we also have exclusive member events that are designed for them for networking and knowledge exchange. So if all of this is interesting and you find yourself in this profile, becoming a member of IDSA is really easy. Download the membership application form, send us the form, and we will take care of the rest and do this hand-in-hand onboarding with you. We have here in the chat as well Anna Derevianko, who manages all our membership, all our membership basically. So you can also reach out to her if you have any questions and so on. So that's a little bit about those of you that when you look at your profile and try to think where you can gain more value and you find yourself more in the maker's profile, then maybe membership is what is fitting to you. And if we talk about this symbiotic ecosystem between makers and users, and the maturity that we see data spaces, the ecosystem of data spaces is in right now, we at IDSA decided to broaden our perspective. So it's not a shift in the perspective, but we are broadening our perspective to also work with supporting users to implement those solutions. So the good news is that a lot of the heavy lifting is done. When we talk about how can we support users, users now, I think data spaces up until now, it was, as I said, it was a very maker's field. So the feeling was that it's not mature enough to enter it. You need to really do a lot of the heavy lifting yourself. You need to build the solutions. You need to understand to understand and to converge different architectures and so on. So a lot of that has already been done. If you're more of a user side, you're not starting from scratch. We can help connect with the makers and we can support you. And what we're trying to do here is not, data spaces are still complex. I'm not trying to say that they are not. There's no way around it. They have to be complex in some sense. We are talking here about trusted data sharing ecosystems. So complexity comes with the solution, basically. But we want to make it manageable. We want to make sure that you don't need to master it all. We can help you with a guided way in, and that's the idea. when we look at what users are interested in, we see a lot of questions that are different from the questions that the makers ask themselves. Putting a stop just to answer that, yes, we will share a recording, because I see a question in the chat from somebody that needs to leave. We will share a recording with everybody that's joined in, no problem. So these are the kind of questions, back to the presentation, that users battle with and that are different from makers. So we really, if we want to support users, we also need to understand their unique needs and what we can offer to them. So what do the data spaces user need as opposed to the makers? They need to understand data spaces better, to understand what business opportunities they enable. They need to find the match, so in partners and in solutions that will enable them to utilize data spaces better. And they need to be able to choose and find the reliable software, reliable services that will enable them to connect to data spaces or to onboard them into them efficiently. And with that in mind, we created the user group, which was launched 2 weeks ago. And the idea is to give answer to those needs with 3 different subsets of activities. So 1, opportunities for engagement. So opportunities to engage with peers and with the makers, learn about solution and share needs. Also activities that will enable users to gain business insights. So sort of stay ahead of the curve, understand in a practical manner data spaces better, to really find the right opportunities that fit to their business needs. And at the end, because you need knowledge, so all around knowledge with the most complete library of papers, guides, tools, events on data spaces. So everything that you need that is more of an essential knowledge resources to understand data spaces better. And sort of to take it down from those catchphrases to what it actually means, I want to share a little bit about the activities that will be part of this bundle of the user group. So first of all, if we talk about engagement, the idea here is to move beyond networking, not just like meet people for the sake of meeting, but actually drive your strategic and your business needs with it. So first of all, we have weekly ecosystem calls. So this is an opportunity to connect with peers, connect with experts, and gain each week some understanding of, we do each week a different deep dive onto something that is very relevant in the ecosystem of data spaces. And it's also an opportunity to meet others, like-minded peers. Users will have a dedicated channel to voice needs and help shape IDSA's roadmap, because at the end, users are the ones that use the standards, use the reference architecture, use the rulebook, and they have insight into what maybe is in need of a change or what is lacking and so on. So we want to hear those needs, and the user group will give voice to those needs. And exclusive targeted collaboration sessions that are aimed at the user's needs. And again, trying to take it down from just words into what it actually means. If you take, for example, these ecosystem building calls that are happening weekly, you can see here already the upcoming calls. So actually, the first one is the call that we just had this Monday. It's the Databricks project that deals with data space implementation in the telecommunication, energy, and legal domain. Then you can see 2 consecutive weeks that deep dive into the data spaces support center blueprint. So kind of really explaining it once from a technical perspective, so a technical deep dive, and the other week from a business and organizational perspective. And you can see here Flex4S, so data spaces for flexible production lines. So we really try to mix and match and have different deep dives into different topics with our ecosystem building calls, so everybody can find something of interest there. When we talk about the second pillar of activities, so business insights, that's the ability, as I said, to gain really practical knowledge. First, with a monthly brief that will showcase key trends at a glance, what is happening, what is really useful to know, who you really need to know, and what is going on in the ecosystem. And then it is sort of being complemented with a more deep dive analysis that is available in a Data Space Now magazine. So this is really like twice a year we will publish a magazine that is really comprehensive and in-depth analysis of what is going on. And again, a sneak peek. So the next Data Space Now magazine will launch somewhere in June. And you can see here some of the topics that we will tackle in this magazine. So global quest for common standards. So a lot about the internationalization of data spaces, and AI as well. One of the most probably the biggest topic we have right now, right? So how do AI complements data spaces, and how can data spaces actually complement AI? And the last pillar of activities that the user group holds are those that support knowledge transfer for both technical knowledge and beyond. So users will be able to access critical resources, one with the solution arena. So that will be the ultimate hub, let's say, for finding tools, solution, and providers with both a landscape of solutions. So you can really just search and filter for solutions that are relevant to your needs. You will have it all in one place, and you don't need to go like scour around and see what is out there. And also it will be supported with monthly Solution Arena calls, which will highlight each month solution in a different kind of theme, and will provide more hands-on experience, maybe sometimes demos and so on. And that will be supported by a data spaces library, so an expert library with papers, guides, and recording all in one place at your fingertips, sorry. And again, just to showcase what it actually means. So with the Solution Arena call series, we had our first call 2 days ago. We did it as a unique one time. Maybe some of you were there, I don't know. As an open call to showcase what it is, and it dealt from open connectors to managed ecosystems. So 2 different ways to tap into to onboard into data spaces. One with a really with the data intelligence hub of the T system, so a really supported ecosystem to enter a data space, and then with the technical connector, so a really modular, lean way to enter data spaces. Our next call will be July 1st, and now it now moves on to being a user group exclusive, and that will deal with data sharing use cases and how can you build them. So methodologies and support tools for building your use case. And so this is just to sort of wrap up what the user group entails. You can see it here. As I said, it's a suite of activities that with pillars for engagement, for business insight, and for knowledge. And with that, we really think that we bring in the support that users need in order to actually adopt data spaces and reap the benefits, basically. And with the user group, we really try to think simple, easy, and how do we remove barriers? How do we reduce complexity? And how do we enable this adoption? So also with the way that the user group is built, you will have one platform that supports all of these activities. So everything is in one place where you can access all resources, go to the knowledge base, see the next events, and onboard onto them, and also see past recordings in this platform. The data space user group, the idea here, we talked about the membership, and this is sort of like something that should complement, let's say, the membership. The idea here is to create a very simple subscription, basically. So when you enter the user group, it's basically like any other subscription. So there are no legal commitments, no barriers to entry, and it's a very quick and easy way to onboard into the world of data spaces. The pricing is tiered pricing. So the idea here is to let each organization choose the level of support and guidance that matches their needs at the moment, their maturity, maybe their budget, and so on. So on the one hand, you have more users have the price per user will be lower, so attractive pricing for multiple users. And on the other hand, you can also quote unquote test the waters and start just with one user per organization, even if you are a large company. Joining the DataSpace user group is very easy as 1, 2, 3. So just visit our website, you choose the tier that you want, complete the online registration form, and you'll get an email with all instructions and the tools to get you started right away. And this is an important last remark before maybe we can open it in a few minutes to questions as well. The user group is also accessible to members. So if we talk about what profile best fit to your needs, if you're a member, you get unconstrained access to everything that IDSA does, and that includes the user group. So the user group as a set of activities, it really fits if you are more on the user profile and you don't have a need to join the co-creation process, and you're less involved in actually developing the tools, in developing the standards and so on, but you just want to learn how to onboard into data spaces and work with data spaces more efficiently, let's say. Or maybe for some, it could also be an opportunity. As we said, it's a subscription base and it's much, some organization we know, and especially when we talk about international organization, that membership can be a problem for them bureaucratically. So maybe a subscription, like buying a service, let's say, like tapping into this activity will fit more. But members have access to everything that we have in the user group. So just to wrap up, like the different possibilities that you have in order to gain support from us, you can choose the path that is right for you based on your needs and your profile. And so, first of all, of course, we have the general access. So if you're interested in the basic core essential aspects of data spaces, the terminology and concept, these stay open to the public. These are still all, the IDSA RAM, the rulebook, and so on. In order to access them, they are open to the public. They will continue to be open. General access might be enough for you. And you can get all the association assets that are published under an open license, and also intro webinars and Q&A sessions like this one. These will continue. We will still continue on doing these sessions to help users gain more understanding of data spaces. And then the data space user group. If I look at profiles and try to say who does it fit for more, this is best suited for data space users, as we said, so end users that want to find the tools, the resources, and the best practice to make the most of existing data spaces. So here you will get, as we said, engagement opportunities, business insights, opportunities to influence IDSA's work, and direct connection to peers and experts. We talked about the pricing. So plans start at 1,800 euros per year. That's for one users. But if you choose one of the other tiers, per user, it will cost less actually. And then if you're more in the maker profile, maybe an association membership is the right fit for you. That's ideal for those makers that are focused more on building data spaces, offering services, tools, and governance. So as I said, it will grant you full access to all association activities, including the user group, and participating in working groups and helping us actually shape the future, contributing to the development of the standards and voicing your perspective in that. And it can also bring in increased visibility and a stage to showcase solution. And once we look at this symbiotic ecosystem, it will help us give makers a better connection to the users that are actually relevant to their solution. Plans start at 3,000 euros a year, but I also want to specifically mention here that there are special pricing for non-for-profit organization and for startups. So that's for your information as well. So plans actually start for those organizations at 1,200 euros a year. So maybe if you're a non-for-profit, it's best it's more fitting for you to become a member actually. So what I'm trying to do here is to give you all the information basically, and say, hopefully this helps you understand what is better fit for you, because every single organization have different needs and we are well aware of that. The association membership, the fee is based on the turnover of the organization. So bigger organization, the fee for them will be higher. And with that, hopefully, I answered a lot of your questions regarding the user group and the membership as well, but I want to open the stage as well for questions. So maybe I can give it, I don't see any questions in the chat, but let's give it a minute to see if there are any more questions from the audience. You can either drop them here in the chat, in the Q&A, or even raise your hand and we will give you a chance to speak. And if there aren't any questions, then I can take a few more minutes just to showcase some more things in case you don't know them that we have that are opportunities for everybody, basically. So I will just go ahead and start, and feel free to drop in your questions. Some more tools that are well worth to take the 10 minutes to be aware of. So first of all, the data space radar. That's a tool that in a sense helps both makers and users and support the creation of databases in general. So the radar is the only tool of its kind that gives a comprehensive overview of what data spaces and use cases are out there globally. So you can get a snapshot of all these data spaces. And the way that they are set up in the radar is that the more mature data spaces are closer to the center. So you can really get the idea of the maturity of the ecosystem as well. So you can freely roam the data space radar in your own time, and you can explore the ecosystem. So it's not just the graph, but you can discover data spaces by sector, by location, by development stage, filter those according to your interest and so on. And you can also choose a specific, let's say a specific dot here, so a specific data space, and dive into the technical foundations of that data space, understand a bit more about the solution of that data space, the building blocks, the components, and so on. So this is a really valuable tool to understand more what is out there and what could be relevant to you. There are already 223 entries. I think there are actually a bit more now. And you can see here that they range from really a wide range of domains. Manufacturing has the most data spaces still, because that's where data spaces were born. But we can see as time goes by that more and more data spaces also occur in other domains. We also have a strong networks of international hubs and competence center. So these are basically our partners, our local partners in different countries and regions. So these are also a great thing to be aware of, because they also offer support, share information, share knowledge about IDSA and data spaces in countries around the world. So you can get some support, some help in your own language when you go to one of those hub and competence center. Ilknur mentioned the training program from the working group side, so the working group that works on the syllabus for the training. But if you're more on the user side, you can also get an IDSA professional certificate, so you can really do a training and go over an exam at the end, learn really in a way that you know that that fits the syllabus and what we think that is all the foundations that you really need to know in order to be an expert, and then at the end get a certificate. So we also have the training catalog. We are not the one that actually provide the training itself, but what we are doing is to create the syllabus with our members in the working group, so you know that the training is up to our standards, let's say. And just as an opportunity to meet us elsewhere. So if we don't have a lot of big events coming up because we are right at the cusp of summer, of the summer break, but we have one event in the end of June. This is the ByData Forum. So if you're in Spain, that could be really, really relevant. We will also be there. And that's a place where you can kind of figure out how data spaces are key to scaling up. So data spaces examples from different domains, AI, so all the relevant subject in the world of data spaces today in Spain. So maybe that could be of interest to you. And you can also always stay up to date with the latest news on data spaces by following our LinkedIn. And with that, I would wrap up unless there are any questions. I see that there's a request for a link to the training. We will put this in. I will put it in the chat in a second. Ilknur put it in the chat, so thank you. Last chance for other questions if there are. I hope this session was of use to you. I want to say that we are always here to support you in your individual journey, in your individual understanding of what is a better fit to you. So as I said, we have Anna here that can help with the membership questions, and Ilknur talked about the working group, sorry. And I'd be happy to help and support with anything that is related to the user group as well. You will get the slides, you will get the recordings, and we are always available for more questions. And with that, thank you very much for joining us and have a great rest of the day.